get good advice. Do not give up. Listen here to AJ's part, but she takes science and a little art, so you can recover hard, recover smart, recover hard, recover smart. Trust your mind, trust your heart, recover hard, recover smart, recover smart.
Kayaker, runner, and former netballer AJ Davis ruptured her ACL during a netball game on November the 19th, 2024. In Recover Hard, Recover Smart, AJ interviews athletes, coaches, and other experts to learn real-world insight to help guide all sports people through the dark and challenging journey of recovering from injury.
Recover smart. Recover smart.
Hi, AJ Davis here. Thanks for tuning into this episode with Hamish Eglinton. Hamish was my strength and conditioning coach at SASI, the South Australian Sports Institute, and a few things that stuck with me in our chat that I want to draw your attention to are what the most important thing about progressing an athlete back to running is, and how the rehab process significantly varies depending on the person. I hope you find this helpful. Hello and welcome back. Today I'm joined by Hamish, who is a strength and conditioning coach at SASI. He is here today to discuss what is involved in running an ACL rehab program. Hello Hamish, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Now, to start off with, what is involved in being a strength and conditioning coach?
So that's a pretty open-ended question. There's a lot of different variables that we take into account within our job. But the main definition for a strength and conditioning coach is just preparing athletes as best as we can for performance within sport. And that generally means making sure that they're able to produce large amounts of force, move quickly, move efficiently, as well as be relatively injury risk-free. To oversimplify things a little bit.
Yeah. Do you enjoy your job?
A lot of fun, yes.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't be doing it if I didn't enjoy it.
But yeah, nice. So you've wrote my ACL rehab program for my recovery. How is an ACL rehab program different from a general strength program?
So it's a lot more targeted specifically towards the lower body strength, especially throughout the later phases of development. Initially, it is all about just increasing range of motion, getting back to normal and functional baselines before kind of then progressing on and strengthening, supporting musculature surrounding the area. In terms of the major differences between them, so prior to your ACL, we were doing a predominantly upper body program, focusing a lot more on core variations and a lot less focus on lower body exercises. Whereas once the injury occurred, we were able to get surgery and we were able to get back to the gym. The focus then shifted again towards predominantly rehab, which then shifted focus towards the lower body exercises.
Yeah. What are the key phases or blocks in ACL rehab?
Yeah, so there's generally 3 phases, or at least 3 phases that I like to use in terms of ACL rehab. Like I said before, the first one is just about achieving a normal range of motion, and whether it be passive or dynamic, it just depends on what the coach itself wants to achieve. But for me, it is just achieving functional and normal ranges again. In the first phase. Second phase is start to complicate things a bit more, make things a little bit more exercise focused. So going through and doing your classic calf raises, single leg bridge, single leg squats, those kind of things to kind of develop the lower body strength before finally moving into the more sport specific, heavier loading, plyometric running type exercises to kind of finish off that rehab.
Yeah.
How do you decide when an athlete is ready to progress to the next stage of rehab? Like, are there certain tests that you do?
So as an S&C, there is no hard and fast rule. And to be honest, for a lot of it, it is a little bit of guesswork because everyone is slightly different. In saying that, I like to use a protocol that has been designed over at Victoria, where they've utilised, I believe it's 20 or 30 different studies to go over and create a metric-based rehab protocol that can be consistently run. So, for example, in my protocol here, I've got metrics that allow me to know when progression should occur. So, for example, let's say if you're single leg squat, when you can achieve within 85% of your good leg to your bad leg, that's a good indication that, okay, maybe it's time to start addressing it. It's a little bit more complex, a little bit more load exercise.
Yeah. How do you go about progressing an athlete back into running?
So the biggest thing with progressing them back into running is just making sure that the load is not too great too quickly.
Yeah.
So in particular with yourself, we jumped onto the anti-gravity treadmill, just load that way. So we were still able to get a large amount of, a little bit of volume through their lower body, but just at reduced loads, before slowly progressing and making it heavier and heavier and heavier.
Yeah.
Until we get to a normal body weight. And then obviously transitioning back into normal running from there. Again, it varies from athlete to athlete, but for the most part, it's all about slow, gradual progression, making sure that you don't do too much too quickly. And if things blow up, to regress and go back again.
Yeah. So talking about athlete to athlete, are all ACL rehab programs exactly the same?
No. No. So, for example, I have another athlete at the moment who's currently going through her ACL rehab. So I'll talk a little bit about yours, actually. It's yours was a relatively quick and painless ACL compared to most. In terms of there was no real major issues that came surrounding it. There was a couple of times where we had to regress exercises because we could potentially progress a little bit too quickly. But for the most part, it was pretty solid. Whereas this other athlete I've got been dealing with at the moment, she's currently been progressing through her ACL rehab for the past 2.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And we've only just started getting back into the running phase at this point. It just depends on what happens during the injury, during the surgery, and following what's surrounding it.
Yeah.
You're quite lucky with yours in terms of how smooth everything went.
Yeah.
And how quickly we got off of it. Whereas this other athlete potentially had a few more complications that have just prolonged the rehab.
Yeah, poor girl.
Yeah.
How much of my program was a standardised rehab and how much was customised for me?
So obviously, as I mentioned before, the protocol in which I used to measure progression was pretty standardised from this Victorian Institute.
Yeah.
However, in terms of your actual exercise and progression, everything was individualised.
Yeah.
It just depended on what you needed in that point in time. So, for example, when we had just gotten back into, let's say, running on the anti-gravity treadmill, and then knee started hurting a little bit, we regressed those exercises, went back to walking, as well as then focusing on your single leg squats, doing your banded leg press, those kind of things.
Yeah. How much of it is sort of like when you start off the double leg, then you go into single leg? When does that sort of happen?
Again, it depends on the metrics. So, for example, in phase 1 is more so about just making sure you get to that normal range of motion again.
Yeah.
So once you can achieve that normal range of motion, we can start shifting the load and using some more unilateral exercises where we shift to, like, let's say, the right side or left side, depending on what is needing a little bit more focus at that point.
Yeah. And to finish off, one last question. If you could give one piece of advice to someone going through an ACL rehab, what would it be?
Be patient. Generally, the research shows that there's a large amount of people who re-injure their ACL post rehab. in my opinion, that shouldn't be the case. And it is just due to a lack of patience
Yeah.
with the rehab.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who seem to want to get jumped back straight into sport and go, which is great. But at the same time, you've got to think about long-term health and all that kind of stuff. Last thing you want to do is go back to your footy or your netball or whatever. And then, you can't walk by the age of 35.
Yeah.
Like,
Not great.
yeah, everything.
Yeah.
You'd rather be able to have a good, long, healthy lifespan.
Mhm.
And even working in professional and high performance sport, that's still one of our major focuses.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just patience.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me, Hamish. Hope you have a great day.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Recover Hard, Recover Smart. If you found this useful, AJ would really appreciate it if you let a friend know about it. She knows that recovery is hard, but this podcast is doing its best to shine a light on some smart ways of getting through it. If you'd like to learn more about AJ's story and this podcast and discover other resources and insights to help you on your recovery journey, visit this website, recoverhardrecoversmart.com.au. That's recoverhardrecoversmart.com.au.
Recover hard, recover smart.